Hi, Dawn. Hi,
Hi.
Lance. All righty. Sandy and Dana, you guys all ready over there?
We're ready, man.
Okay, so welcome to week 3 of Saturday shop tours. Thank you all for coming. I'm having a lot of fun doing these, setting them up, and I appreciate everyone who's taking the time to do their tour. So without further ado, I'm gonna pin Sandy here. Give me one second.
Hi there.
And Sandy Webberking has. I'm going to just do like a quick high level overview, and then she's going to tell us a little bit about her background. So Sandy's a trained artist. She's a BFA in fine arts from Moore College of Art and Design. She's been supporting herself selling her art for over 25 years, and the way she's going to talk a little bit about how she's been selling her art and how she's adapting to these circumstances and sort of reinventing the way she sells her art to people. So, Sandy, thank you so much for doing this.
Yes. It's nice to be able to talk about my work. I feel I didn't realize how I was going to miss doing craft shows because I got to talk to people, and it's my goal was to not do craft shows, and now I actually miss it a little.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
I'll try and be quiet, but sometimes I have to talk.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, craft shows are hard on the body. So I've been trying to find a way to kind of phase them out, but still keep the best. I mean, there was one point when I was doing probably 30 a year, and I scaled down last year to 23, and this year I was supposed to do 15 or 16, but so far I've only done one, and it looks like half of the year is canceled. So I'm just transitioning. So this is the garage.
You should add that wasn't your only venue of sales. She also did commission work and a lot of private stuff. But
installation pieces like bike racks.
Craft shows were like the dependable staple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, craft shows are probably 80% of my business. I'd estimate. So this is the garage. Well, get into the house first. My grandpa built this house in the 30s, and my dad was raised here. And when my dad was 15, well, this garage was here originally, but my shop was not. When my dad was 15, my grandpa and him built my shop so that he could work on cars, and he was working on cars before he had his license. And at that point, the property used to be 3 acres, and my dad had actually driven a complete track around the yard because he used to test drive all his cars on the property. We since have sold some of that property, which is kind of good because it was just really long and weird anyway. But
they found a way to fit 9 houses in there.
Yeah, it was crazy. You want to walk? I guess I'll walk into my shop and I'll start showing you some.
I mean, talk about some of your stockpiles.
Yeah. This is my mess. So I use all kinds of different recycled material. This was a really, really heavy air compressor that a friend of mine gave me. I thought it was going to be much lighter than it was, but I intend on making it into some fire pits at some point.
That'll be something.
Yeah, or that I could use the bases for sculptures. Oh, and these. I've had these for 20 years, and one of these days I'm going to turn them into, doesn't this look like a horse head? I want to make a really cool trellis.
Oh, that's cool.
Because it could give it some eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, these are all kinds of stuff. Spindles they're spacers for plow harrow disc blades.
Keep you in it.
Yeah. So when I moved in here, my dad, we got these racks. He installed them for me to hold all my steel. And this is a lot of weight.
Between that and this one in the center, which
Oh, God,
if you can see how many rods there are stacked in here.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, this is I'll have to show it to you later. This I get all these steel pre-cut for me now because I make a tripod out of them, and this piece is a staple, and I've been probably doing it for 18 years, and it paid my student loans off.
You saw 4,000 of those one year?
One season. Wow. Let's see, let's scan to it real quick.
Wow.
Start looking into the sun.
Yeah, it's this one. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this I started making, it was probably 20 years ago now. And there was one season that I sold 4,700 of them. I made them all myself.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy.
We went to a show in New York with 2 trucks and trailers full of
Yeah,
stuff.
I had
Came back empty.
5 people help me. That was when craft shows were a little different, but
People were buying them that didn't know
yeah,
what they
didn't know
were.
what they
They called days later and said, "What is this thing I bought from you?"
Salespeople.
She's a good salesperson.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when she wraps them up, the legs are together with a zip tie, and it's in a bag, so it's not as obvious.
Well,
but
the best was when people would come up to me and say, "I don't know what it is. I don't care what it is, but I don't want to be the only one not carrying it."
works for us. Yeah. Let's get into the shop. So there's stuff everywhere, but it's all good stuff.
So, what I've been really interested in lately is making fire pits, and I make them out of old prototypes. Now,
100 pounders.
Yeah, these are 100-pounders. This isn't a tank that I really want to use because this is a newer one. This paint is horrible. But what I do is
She likes the old lead paint better.
Yeah, probably. So these I've cut these all apart and they're ready to become fire pits. But you can see like this foot is really beat up, so it wouldn't work as a foot. So I'll cut it off. And what I do is I'll sacrifice one tank and I'll cut a bunch of different feet for it. So this will get cut off and then this will get welded on. But I make them all different sizes. I can show you. Here is so here's one I've made, and this is a 12-inch tank, so you can see when it's lit. Oops.
Wow. Beautiful.
So how I build this, when it has these washers on it, I would have
Turtle.
how do I explain it? Well, before these washers were on at all, this part would be welded on the top. And I would use this, like, I can show it on this one better. Like if I was going to be building the washers up on this one, I would tack weld this in place. And then I would use this as the form, like that. I would pre-bend these washers and I would weld them together.
Each washer's actually got a curve to it. She's very
I bend them.
intricate with the flow of everything in the lines.
Do you have a press that rolls, like a roll press or whatever they call it?
No, I have a bender. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
This thing is the best. When my dad sold his brake shop, he insisted that I take this, and if you understand my dad, whenever he would want you to take something, you had to have it. And I said, no, I don't want this thing. It's too heavy, and it's going to take up too much space in my shop. Well, he showed up with it anyway. Now this has been my best friend.
It's an exhaust bender. It's actually an old exhaust bender that she's repurposed.
I didn't even know they had such-
That's pretty cool.
She has different dies for different size exhausts, and
Electric. Okay, let me bend something. So this is plumber's pipe, and I use it for a lot of stuff like the neck of the peacocks over here. But I have all different kinds of dyes that I can use, and I don't use it the way it was intended at all. But there's all these degrees that I can set, and I do have it set for certain things that I do.
you can set stops, so it'll bend to a certain point, and you can repeat the bend perfectly every time.
But what I've learned is just to do little, so you can see it straight before I start. I just do little increments of bend. And the good thing about this pipe is because it's so heavy walled, if there's any kinks, I can go back and grind them out. But that's how quickly
Cool.
it can bend that.
So it's black pipe, like grass pipe.
Yeah, it's very heavy. But you can't do a fast bend because it will crimp it. So all my big pieces have been that way. And I've learned to use it for complex bends and curves. I'll show you a piece this piece here has some really complex curves to it. I started this years ago, and when I started cleaning out my shop yesterday, I was like, I need to finish this. So all these bends, these are going to be lights. This was these were propane tanks that I've cut apart. So there's going to be a flower here, and this is going to turn into a flower, and they're going to be lights, and these are the leaves. I really liked the bends of this. I guess I couldn't figure out where it was going to go, so I kind of lost steam somehow on it. But,
So are you happy that your dad dropped the bender off?
Oh, I'm so happy. It's my best, absolute best thing in here.
So he was right again.
Yes, he was. But I bet all, like the peacocks, all their necks, all the legs, and I even use it for, so this would be considered one of my higher end pieces, but I hit every price point because I feel like everybody should be able to have some art. So I have things that start at $10 and things that go up to thousands of dollars. Let's see. Here's a piece I've been working on.
I mean, I'm going fast, but everywhere you look in here, she's so used to looking at it, she doesn't see it, but I see cool stuff and things, partially made everywhere that are really neat.
This one's
She always
cool.
comes back and finishes them
So
when she's inspired.
this peacock, I always keep a template of the tail because it's really specific. I want it to have this really subtle curve. So what I do is I have it for each bird that I've done, and I then will lay this on the table, and I will actually lay the pieces on top of it and weld them, tap them together right on it. So it actually is my template. So all my templates take up so much space, but
It's got all the wings to the
oh yeah,
different butterflies and moths and stuff, the templates for them.
if I'm quick, I won't burn it, but if I'm not quick, it burns.
So plasma cut right around it without any.
Yeah, so I will clamp this to the metal, and I'll use that edge to get a nice straight line. Oh, another thing I always love to do is this aluminum wire is a great way for me to practice a curve because I want to see what it's going to look like before I bend it out of steel. So I'll do that for leaves.
So- Tell us about the machine right behind. We're
Oh,
going by so much stuff
Yeah,
that people
yeah.
are probably wondering what it is.
this fume extractor is the bomb. I love this thing.
So there's this snorkel bends wherever you need it, right next to where you're welding or cutting,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
and
it's so
cleans the
impressive
air.
how much it'll clean out of the air. Because I mean, this winter has been the mildest ever, so I didn't shut my doors all winter. But if I have to, I can weld in here, and it really does take the smoke up. The filter's crazy.
It's got a giant.
It's like a $200
cartridge.
filter.
Yeah, the filter's like the size of a 5-gallon shop vac in there.
It's loud though. You get really tired of hearing it, but it's better to be able to breathe, of course. This is one of my production line pieces I've been working on now. I have such loyal customers that have been following me for so many years. They always like to buy my new stuff. So I designed the cone flower because it was the symbol of strength, health, and resilience. So the glass, these are I use these all the time. These are later glasses. And Dana helped me come up with the concept because I was trying to figure out how to attach it onto here. That I glue an epoxy nut into the bottom so that it can screw on.
She puts a lot of thought into how people move stuff around to get it in their cars from these shows and disassembling and
for me
and
transporting
what transports.
Yeah.
The next thing was once I made all these, stacking them in my trailer was a nightmare. So then we worked on this concept so the flower part comes off. Now when it's done, I can zip tie a bunch of these together. Well, and of course I did a deal. You get it's 54 each or 3 for 150. So then people will buy the multiples. So when I start, I use the bender to bend this curve. This is
I use the bender.
Or yeah, Dana was doing that. And then this is the part that ends up becoming the flower. I weld the petals get welded right to here. And this is the best. I cut all these petals out and they were sharp, and it's just too much grinding to get this surface smooth.
If you know, a plasma cutter does leave a little slag line on there.
Yeah, it leaves stuff on the back, and it's not just that, but it's kind of, sometimes it's a little bit sharp. So I throw all these petals in Dana's old cement mixer. It is so loud, but it cleans off, and it gives this great like satin finish. I mean, they do get rusted afterwards anyway, but it takes all the edges off, and I don't have to grind anything, because it's always how I'm gonna protect my arms, because it's the repetitive stuff is really hard on your body. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Then after like the fire pits, I had all this scrap, so I started making all these ornaments. Let me show a finished one.
A lot of this started as the cutouts from when she makes all the different fire pits.
Oh, wow.
So the sea turtle, these get thrown in the cement mixer too, and this step, the gold part is bronze. So when they're finished, they get beaded and they get a little sign on them, what they symbolize. This whole series was called Swim and Soar. Anything that's
She accents them with brazen wire, just to make that clear what that is. That's all brazen on it.
yeah. So it's this is raw bronze that I use with a torch, and I just it's kind of like soldering.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
But these are what I just put on my Etsy store right as things started happening, and my Etsy store is doing really good. So thank God.
Sandy, didn't you tell me last night that you sold enough on your Etsy to replace 2 of the shows that were canceled? What you would
Yeah,
have known?
I've sold 144 ornaments in 7 weeks. So that was
Awesome.
really good. Another one I wanted to show you. So this is a dragonfly ornament, and how it starts.
Where's your phone?
Oops.
Oh, cute.
I use a cut nail, and then I bend this wire, and it's several steps. But then when it's done, I'll take this wire and I bend it around to give it eyes. I make let me show a jig.
Yeah, I said it before, but the curves are very important to her. Like it takes so much to make that nail just to get the right curve on it that makes her happy.
So this is a jig that I made because I want all the ornaments to be really the same. This wire that I use is tie wire. They use it in construction. It's the most amazing wire because it's bendable. It's annealed wire. It's bendable, but it holds its shape at the same time. So I can make the ornaments and they're not going to bend all over. So here's the metal that's cut out, and I have a little hole drilled in there, and then I just bend it.
Oh, wow.
She's done that before.
Yeah, this is my biggest seller. I've made hundreds and thousands of these. And then I go back and just bend that. So that's a template I made for that.
Awesome.
Neat.
Hey, Sandy, just a heads up. We have about 4 minutes remaining.
Oh, God. Let me do the plasma cutting. All right, I'm gonna cut.
Everything turned on?
Yep.
Winch hanging up there for getting heavy stuff in and out of her stuff.
Oh, cool. I love all the templates and forms that she has to reproduce everything. That's really cool.
Yeah, there's things everywhere. She's made so many different things over the years. This is all the ends of the tanks and everything from,
Right.
from the fire pits.
This is the
Is
ground.
part 2 next week?
You have to pay for that one, Billy.
Very gloves on.
Yeah. You learn, fires it downwards, right? She's got one on one, it might get burned.
Yeah, if you haven't seen a plasma cutter work, that's it. Great.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's neat.
It takes some explaining, but it's air blowing through an electrical arc that creates the plasma, cuts the metal.
Wow. I want one.
That's how it is.
Who said that? Was that Lindsay?
I want one too. I know my next hobby though.
I think that's
neat, isn't it?
Yeah. Pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Are they muted
Steady
on that?
hand.
They're that quiet. So cool.
Wow. That is really
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, that's so fun.
She's bald.
Yeah.
This is a really popular fire pit. This is throwing a dog.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
probably about there, right, Carl?
Yeah, we have 1 minute remaining, Dana.
There you go.
So I'm gonna.
Questions?
Look at that.
Keeps it on time, which is good.
Well, thank you everybody for
Thank
checking us
you.
out.
Anybody
That's
have any
amazing.
quick questions for Sandy?
Oh, there's Elizabeth.
All right.
I will post the stuff. If you see anything you like, please support Sandy. And Sandy, thank you so much for
Oh, you're
all your
welcome.
time setting this up. It was amazing.
That was great. Thank you.
Very Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good
See you
job.
all next week. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carl.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey guys.
Everyone.
Bye.
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 See ya. See ya, church.
Carl, Carl,
Yes.
are you and I going to do a tour of our shed next week?
They already did it.
Are you talking about
Just
the
let me know.
woodworking shed?
Yeah,
Matt and Carl's woodworking shed?
the White and Shaw woodworking shed. Are we going to do a tour of that next week?
We missed it. You did it.
You did a tour without me?
You can catch it on video, Matt. Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.
See you guys.
Happy
Stay
Mother's
safe,
Day to all you
everyone.
women.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Clear, Bill.
Happy
Give the
Mother's
wife a
Day.
kiss.
Hey,
Hey,
Bill.
don't be late for church.